people don't like to discuss about this. The Buddha's advice is for us to concentrate, get used to our mind. And then the fear, worries, unhappiness disappear from the mind. Take as natural, very natural occurrence. The reason why people don't like it is not because that death is miserable or death creates a lot of problems, but they are craving. They don't like to depart, separate from their property, their houses, their money, their jewelry, their children, their wife and husbands, and that is why they don't like it. Otherwise, there is no reason for us to create some sort of unhappiness or unpleasant feeling about death. Death is important. When your passport is expired, you have to renew it. Death is exactly like that. Then you get new passport with new photo. Then why do you worry about that? We change this physical body and build another new one. That is called death and birth. There is no birth without death. Death is the cause of birth, and birth is the cause of death. There is no death if there is no birth. Both are interrelated. Both are important. I always mention this, I think you can remember, then setting sun here in this country become the rising sun in another country. The sun disappeared. For that we say death. But the life never died. The sun never died, although disappeared. The sun reappeared somewhere else. And the life also reappeared somewhere else. This is the nature of death and birth. You must understand this. Then can reduce that fear and tensions and worries that we maintain. But people do not know how death takes place. They have imagination or superstitious belief. What the Buddha says. And he says, Ayu usmacha viññānaṁ yada kāyaṁ jahanti. Three things must depart or separate from this body. Then only death takes place. Otherwise, death cannot take place. The body completely turns into pieces or ashes. Still, death cannot take place if these three things are not departed, not separated. They are energies. You cannot see them. The body sustains only elements. Body is important to accommodate life. Life exists because of the body. In this part of the world, life cannot exist without a shelter. But there are some other world systems, life can exist without any shelter. So, Ayu, Usmacha, Viññāna, these are the three things that must separate from the body. Ayu, maximum lifespan. this maximum lifespan change from time to time. Reduce and increase, just like temperature. 2,500 years ago, average maximum lifespan was 120 years. Many people lived 120 years. So what is the average maximum lifespan today? 65. See the difference. How much reduced? And this go on reducing up to 10. Maximum lifespan becomes 10 years in time to come. That means 10 years old person become grandfather and grandmother. Yes. So what is the reason? Reason is mental pollution, mental corruption, mental pollution, immoral practices become very common, and selfishness, craving, cunningness, cruelty, anger, jealousy, grudge and ill will, all the evil forces dominate and suppress the good qualities and the virtues. Everybody is cunning. There is nobody in this world today who is honest. Then good qualities and virtues go down and down and down. Then physically, we experience so many new sicknesses in time to come. Started already. Then reduced to 10. After that, then again started coming up. Increased up to few thousand. Now this is going down. This period going down. No one can stop this. The more we develop our knowledge about worldly things, actually we create more and more cunningness, worldly mindedness. But a spiritual development, morals, ethics, degenerate, decline. Now we can understand. All over the world, people are fighting, quarreling, killing, slaughtering, burning. Why? They have enough food, enough shelter, enough clothing, enough medicine, enough things. Then why do they want to destroy and kill and attack, create violence and bloodshed? Because the mind is corrupted. No patience, no tolerance, no kindness, no sympathy, no unity, no harmony. All these things are dying and dying and dying and dying from the mind. So that is the main cause of our downfall. So are you here? Maximum lifespan. When rebirth takes place, there are different kinds of karmic energies responsible for different aspects of our life. So one particular karma is responsible for our lifespan. How long we can survive. That particular karma is responsible for that. That is why some babies, even before the mothers give birth, die in the mother's womb. If not the same day when the baby is being born, die. If not after few days or few months or few years. Some mothers live up to 80, 90. or 100, very seldom nowadays 100. That particular karma is responsible for it. We have supportive karma, obstructive karma, and this particular karma is to maintain our life into certain period according to the degree of that particular karma. If that karma is extinguished, no one can stop that life. If that karma is still active, no one can kill that person. Because the karma is still active. Cannot kill. I can give a simple example. A police inspector who had heated argument with his wife. He was very hot-tempered man. He could not tolerate what happened. He took the gun and shot his wife. Then she died. After that, he thought there's no point of living anymore. He also took the gun and this one jammed. The bullet did not come out. Jammed. And throw away the gun and went to the kitchen and found a very big rope and tie here and climbed to the mango tree and jumped. That one was a rotten one. He fell down, nothing happened to him. He is so angry, there was a river nearby. He went with that piece of rope and jumped into the river, very deep river. At that time, 2 people were taking bath in the river. They came and saved him. Now, within half an hour, 3 times he escaped from death. Now the court case for killing his wife. Now another death. Now he is facing another death. Do you know, according to the law, if a person kills another one due to sudden anger that flare up immediately and kill without thinking earlier that he or she want to kill this person. So according to the law, that is called culpable homicide. No death penalty for that. Life imprisonment. So life imprisonment. Again he escaped from the death. 4 times he escaped from the death. That is what I told you. If that particular karmic energy is still active, although we try to die, also it cannot. Another person also cannot kill. If the karma is faded away, whatever precautions we take, we cannot escape from it. That is called karma. But people cannot understand it. Second one is usma. Usma means heat energy. Among those 4 elements, Pathavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu, earth, fluid, heat and motion or the wind. Heat energy is the most important element to protect the life. All the other elements also maintained by the heat energy. When the heat energy separates from the body, life cannot exist. That's why when you touch a dead body, you can see very cold, no temperature. The heat energy is separated. Third one is very difficult to understand. Vijnana. Vijnana means mental energy. If mental energy still remains or functioning, death cannot take place. That is why I told you, the body may turn into pieces. energy still remains. No one can destroy energy. The life and mental energy, these two are interrelated, work together. Mind cannot remain without life. Life cannot remain without mind. But the life and the mind both can remain without body in certain other world systems, but not here. We must have shelter. Then what is this consciousness? The English word, the consciousness, gives very narrow meaning. The word used by the Buddha is vijnana. We have four mental faculties: Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. The word used by the Buddha. Vedana, our feeling or sensation. One mental faculty. Same mind, one aspect of the mind. Veda, feeling. Then Sanya, perception. Perception means identify, recognize. That is another mental faculty. We recognize this is so and so. This is good. This is bad. Another mental faculty. Third one, Sankhara, mental tendencies. Mental tendencies means the mental energy that we continue by developing certain habits, certain ambitions, certain anxieties. That is called mental tendencies. All of us have our mental habits that we carry forward from our last or previous birth. We are using here our habits. Then our nature, our behavior, our character depend on these tendencies. After that, when we depart from this world, again we continue our habits, our nature. Continuity is there. Now this is another mental faculty. Because Buddhism is not like other religions. Talk only about God and heaven and hell and punishment and reward. Buddhism pay more attention to explain the human mind. I don't think there is another religion where you can find. Hinduism also we can, to a certain extent. The definitions of the human mind, analytical interpretation of the human mind. Now, I think all of you know the word man, M-A-N, man, is derived from Sanskrit Pali word mana. Mana means mind. The word man is derived from mana, Pali word. Man does not mean only male. Male or female makes no difference. Man means human. So, man means one who got a mind to think. But other living beings have their mental energy to certain degrees only. Only for their survival, for their protection, for their pleasure. They cannot extend their thinking further or beyond that. But the human mind we can use for thinking, analyzing, and observing, investigating. So human beings or human minds are more advanced than any other kind of mental energy that other living beings maintain. Now this word, consciousness. Consciousness means vinyana. But the English word does not give the real meaning. According to psychology, the consciousness analyzed into semi-conscious, unconscious, but here different meaning. Consciousness means five senses bring objects from outside. Eyes, ear, nose, mouth, body, five senses. These objects, the five senses that bring, deposit in that consciousness. Accommodate. We call it mind, but separate section. Then, just now I mentioned mental faculties, our feeling, or some sort of sensation, pleasant or unpleasant feeling, that also we deposit in that consciousness. Then our recognition, when we recognize, when we identify something or somebody, that also we deposited in the consciousness. Just now I mentioned we have another mental faculty which is called mental tendencies. There are so many words for that. Mental concomitant, mental activities, mental tendencies, all sorts of words. But easy to understand this word, mental tendency. As our habit, we appreciate or we reject certain things or some people. That is the nature of our mind. That is why we say, oh, we like that, but not this. We don't like this, but we like that. But we cannot give reason why. That is the nature of the mind. I like this person, but not that person. If anybody asks why, we cannot give direct answer. Why? The mind is not ready to accept this person, but like to accept the other person. Color. I like this color, but not that color. Dress. I like this kind of dress, but not this type. Mind, accept or reject. The nature, tendency. That mental tendency also deposits certain things in that consciousness. Now you can understand how rich it is, that consciousness. Besides these things, inside that consciousness there are five more ingredients. Avidya, Trishna, Karma, Upadana, Bhava. Five more ingredients are there in our mind. We do not know that. Avidya. Avidya means ignorance. All of us have ignorance in our mind. No one is free from ignorance. Ignorance means there are many things which we cannot understand, cannot appreciate, cannot recognize. That is ignorance. We try to learn. We get only little bit of knowledge about the world and the universe or the galaxies or philosophy or psychology or scientific subject, but we learn only little bit. When we measure our knowledge, how much we have learned about this much. How much we have not learned so big. So all of us have that ignorance. So this ignorance we maintain in our mind until we attain enlightenment. That is one of the ingredients. That is why we make a lot of mistakes. Silly mistakes because of that ignorance. After that we try to justify, nothing wrong. That is another kind of ignorance. After doing some mistake, we try to say, oh, there is nothing wrong. We argue because of that ignorance. Avidya. Then, second one, Trishna. Craving. There's no living beings, even plant life also, maintain some sort of craving for survival. Now you can see the roots of a tree goes very far in searching the food for survival. That is craving. And the Bodhi tree, the roots can break very heavy concrete, flat also. It is so energetic, break walls. For survival, use that energy. So the human beings also use that mental energy, that craving, for three purposes. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Three kinds of craving we have. Kama tanha means craving for pleasure. This is very strong in this part of the universe. Because this part of the universe is called Kama Loka, sensual world. But in some other part of the world, living beings are not crazy for pleasure. Here, humans, animals, and devas, all are crazy for pleasure. Fighting, quarreling, arguing, creating violence, bloodshed, everything, all these problems we create because of our craving for pleasure. You can see how animals fight, humans fight, devas also fight. They have jealousy, they have anger because of that craving. With no craving, there is no jealousy, no anger, never appear in that mind. If there is some sort of contentment in our life, also we can control that craving. Then, bhavatanha, second one. Craving for survival, craving for existence. For my survival, I can kill all the others. See how strong that craving. I never think it is bad for me to kill others for my living. Any kind of living being. We can do any kind of immoral or wicked or cruel, dangerous thing for our survival, for our living. We also justify, yes, we are doing that for our living. That is not the justification. Second kind of craving. So we are facing all our problems because of this. Craving for survival, craving for better rebirth, to enjoy life. To be born in a rich family, to enjoy life. To go to heaven and enjoy life. Craving. It is craving. Craving for eternal life. Because we don't like death. We like birth but not death. It doesn't work. If there is birth, there must be death. If there is no death, there cannot be a birth. We never think in that way. Because of that craving. So we like to have eternal life because of that craving. Life cannot become eternal. Because life is the combinations of elements and energies. This bundle never remains without changing, dissolving. That is natural. This world or any other world system. If there is life, that life is impermanent, changeable. But our craving like it. How nice if we can have a life without death. That is ignorance. We create such ideas in our mind because of our ignorance. Then, craving for non-existence. This is another kind of craving we have. We crave not to exist. Some people crave to exist by killing others also. But some people crave not to exist. What is the reason? It is due to unsatisfied craving. When we could not entertain our craving, then we have no courage to face. And committing suicide. Solution is committing suicide. That is craving for non-existence. We want to die because we could not gain what we wanted. Unsatisfied craving. Another aspect. Some people believe that this is the only life. There is nothing hereafter. I don't like to have another birth, another life. But we cannot give order. We cannot command. Because it is natural. Due to unsatisfactoriness, frustration, disappointment, people create that idea. Oh, I don't like to have another life. Or those who suffer from severe, painful, intolerable pain and sicknesses, they think, oh, I don't like to have another life. But it doesn't work in that way. We cannot command to our life to stop. That is also craving for non-existence. We crave not to exist again. It doesn't work. If we don't like to exist again and again and again to suffer, then there is a method for us to practice by reducing this craving, reducing, and then we can stop. But by keeping that craving, we cannot stop rebirth. There is another kind of craving for non-existence. Certain things that which we like so much. We like to destroy them, burn, without allowing others to use. See how dangerous is that craving. We have certain things which are very beautiful, very useful, but we don't want others to use. We cannot tolerate that. So we burn and destroy. That is also under that category. Now you can understand the nature of our mind, what kind of craving we have. So in that consciousness, This is the second ingredient. First one is ignorance. Second one is this craving. Avidya, Krishna. Third one, karma. No one can live in this world without creating karma. Whether we are good or bad, everybody creates karma. By thinking, by talking, by doing something. 3 ways. When we create hatred, anger, jealousy, grudge, ill will, enmity, then mind itself creates bad karma. On the other hand, when we develop kindness, compassion, sympathy, honesty, cooperation, understanding, unity, the mind itself creates good karma without doing anything. Mental purity. Then, talking. When we talk using harsh, vulgar, wicked words to hurt, to hate others, disturb others, by uttering such words, we create bad karma. Again, we talk to others very gently, politely, to console others. Advise people how to get rid of their fears and worries and sicknesses and troubles and problems. We talk very kindly and gently and nicely to console others. That kind of talking creates good karma. Because by talking, we can help people to get rid of their fears or worries or death, fear of death. Also we can remove from their mind. Then, by doing something, either for our pleasure, for our survival, we do something, some sort of work or some sort of business. So we do some business to make money for our living by bluffing, swindling, cheating, telling lies, smuggling, threatening, frightening, by force. See how many methods are there. We can make lot of money by adapting one of these methods and destroying, killing others. But all these actions are wrong, create bad karma. On the other hand, we also do some work for our living, for our survival, without violating, breaking any of our 5 precepts. We can do any kind of business without breaking any of our 5 precepts. Not only that. Now you want to become a doctor. No doubt you can make a lot of money. But you should not be crazy only for making money. As a doctor, you can do wonderful service to save others' life, reduce others' sicknesses and worries and fear. It is a wonderful service. Then you can create good karma. You can become a teacher or lecturer or professor. You can draw a big salary. But you should not be crazy for that salary. You have to consider the service that you are going to render. By educating, enlightening people, you are going to do wonderful service to mankind. If you think in that way, it will become a meritorious deed. And you are going to become a nurse without thinking only about your salary. Every day or how many times a day you are going to attend to sick people who suffer from sicknesses, to attend to them, to look after them, advise them, feed them, bathe them, clean them. All are meritorious deeds if you do them with kindness. So our action, whatever we do, we can convert or we can direct either to become bad karma or to become good karma. So every day, every minute, we perform some sort of karma, either good karma or bad karma, according to our way of thinking, way of talking, way of doing things. No one can live without creating karma. Only Arahantas and Buddhas never create because they have no craving, no ignorance. They are free. But we cannot live without creating karma. So karma is one of the ingredients in that mind. Then the fourth one, avidya, trishna, karma, upadana. Upadana means clinging. Develop some sort of attachment towards certain things which we like. Because of this attachment, we can create a lot of bad things. And we had to suffer because of this attachment. Attachment consoles us. We gain some sort of emotional satisfaction through our attachment. At the same time, the same attachment in return gives a lot of worries and troubles and disturbances, jealousy, anger. Let us take boyfriend and girlfriend attachment. Yes, very nice, wonderful. At the same thing, jealousy, anger, enmity and fighting, quarreling, arguing, beating, because of the attachment. So, we must know, Buddhism never says you should not have attachment. Yes, attachment is important, but the same attachment in return creates a lot of problems. We must understand. Some people commit suicide also. So one day, Lady Visakha, the Buddha's very good supporter, when she met the Buddha, she was crying. Then the Buddha asked, why are you crying? She said, my granddaughter died. Then the Buddha asked, do you know few hundred children almost every day die here in this town? Do you know that? Yes, I can understand. Do you cry for them? She says, no, I don't cry for them. Why? Because I have no attachment to them. And you are crying here because of your granddaughter. You have strong attachment. So Buddhism teaches us attachment is important. Don't give up. But at the same time, we must understand what sort of the side effect or the price, the problems we had to face because of this attachment. So we had to develop our mind to tolerate that. When unfortunate things happen. This is another ingredient in our mind. Clinging to certain things, developing attachment. Last one is, no time to talk about. In return can create a lot of disturbances, but a lot of satisfaction that you can understand when a baby, a child come to the mother and the mother embrace this child and what sort of satisfaction the mother experience. To her that is very important. At the same time, that child died suddenly. Then what is her feeling, mother's feeling? Can she tolerate that? Because of that attack. So one day, Lady Visakha, the Buddha's very good supporter, when she met the Buddha, she was crying. Then the Buddha asked, "Why are you crying?" She said, "My granddaughter died." Then the Buddha asked, he advised you to learn. After learning, you have to think. Then you can understand. That understanding is not changeable. But the belief you had without any understanding, changeable. From time to time, change. So when you understand in this way, then we realize, oh, the life is like this, mind is like this, how changes take place, then enrich our knowledge and understanding. Then we strengthen our mind to face lot of problems we had. That is what we prepare our mind to face so many challenges, so many problems that we had to face. Last one is bhava. Bhava means karma formation. Karma formation means when we are going to die, at the last moment, 3 signals appear in the mind before our death. Kamma, kamma nimitta, gati nimitta. Without going through these 3 stages, no one can die. Death never takes place. Buddhism is not a religion for you to believe in something, but to study, to learn, to think, to understand. There's nothing for you to believe. Because the Buddha did not advise you to believe anything. He advised you to learn. After learning, you have to think. Then you can understand. That understanding is not changeable. But the belief you had without any understanding, changeable. From time to time, change. So when you understand in this way, then we realize, oh, the life is like this, mind is like this, how changes take place, then enrich our knowledge and understanding. Then we strengthen our mind to face lot of problems we had. That is what we prepare our mind to face so many challenges, so many problems that we had to face. One is bhava. Bhava means karma formation. Karma formation means when we are going to die, at the last moment, 3 signals appear in the mind before our death. Kamma, kamma nimitta, gati nimitta. Without going through these 3 stages, no one can die. Death never takes place. Kamma nimitta means, just now I mentioned, during our lifetime we create lot of good karma as well as bad karma. All a mix-up. When our senses are not working with the mind, we say unconscious. But the mind is conscious. The mind doesn't deal with the senses. Mind is alert. That is the time all the accumulated karma, good and bad, start to function. Subconscious mind project and project and project and project like a film show in the mind. But cannot express anything, is unconscious. So when that person grasps or hold on the last karmic thought that appear in the mind, after that no more, stop. That karmic thought is responsible for the next life. But we cannot say whether it is good karma or bad karma. That is the uncertainty of our karma. Of course, if our minds are used to more good karma, then easy for us to get good karma. But as soon as that karmic thought appear in the mind, then another signal appears. Kamma nimitta. The nature of that particular karma which appear in the mind, whether it is good karma or bad karma. What happens? If it is a bad karmic thought, then the mind experience a vision like darkness, jungles, fierce animals, very unpleasant, or fires, as vision appear in that mind. That means the karmic thought that appeared in that mind is not a good one. It is a bad karma. If not, on the other hand, flower gardens, waterfalls, very pleasant looking persons like angels, vision of them appear in the mind. Then come to know that karmic thought is a good one, not a bad one. This is the second stage. After that, gati nimitta. Indications appear in that dying person's mind, the destiny, where this person goes to have rebirth, existence again, whether as humans or animals or spirits or ghosts or devils or devas or brahmas, according to that karma. Indications appear in the mind. The belief that people maintain, after our death, we go on searching a suitable place for our rebirth. That is our imagination. Here the Buddha's teaching is this. Before we die, we catch the object into our mind. Then rebirth takes place in that particular place. Either humans or animals or devas, before that person depart from here. Then straight away, that consciousness, now that consciousness is ready, just like a rocket. When it is transmitted from here, that consciousness straight away enter. Enter means only just like X-ray. Exactly like X-ray. Enter into a mother's womb. Viññānaṁ mātu puccismiñ okkamati, the Buddha says. Viññānaṁ, this consciousness, mātu puccismiñ, mother's womb, okkamati, enter. Cannot remain somewhere else. That is the nucleus of the life. Originated in the mother's womb. With the human's mother or animal's mother, nobody knows. It depends on the ingredients of that consciousness, which appear at the dying moment. Then elements, cosmic energies, later come and combine with this consciousness. Then build another house. So it will take 9 months to complete the building. Building and building, then develop the 5 faculties, eyes, all this, then 4 mental faculties, later development. First only the structure. When everything is ready, then come out. After that, going on expanding. When that one is slowly going on decaying, collapse, that house again goes away. The life again goes away from that house. Then go and build another new one. These are the new houses we have built. Now we are planning to build another one after this. That is what we are doing. And we are also doing this, crying and worrying and fighting and quarreling and accusing and blaming and laughing and enjoying. These are the things that we are doing. So if you can understand this, we can reduce a lot of worries and fear and all sorts of things. This is the nature. Death has taken place already. Enter into the mother's womb and complete it. So now you can understand how death takes place. All our imaginations are very childish because we never study, never learn, never think how wise people explain. So it is nature. Death is nature. So our duty is to prepare. If death is natural, if death is certain, our duty is, without creating worry or fear or this or that, prepare for that. Then the fear disappears. Because we have already prepared. Nothing to worry. Yes, you have to go out. I have another appointment. Blessings. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sutti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhamma